Hi, Sadhvi, Bhavya. Thank you so much for being here and talking to me today. Can you please sort of tell people a little bit about yourself and the work that you're doing?
Awesome. Thanks, Mike, for having me. My name's Sadhvi Bhavya. I'm with the Divine Light World Organization. I try and help people connect to their true self through the practice of an ancient technique of meditation that's been passed down from gurus to disciples since eons. So, using this technique, we call it Brahm Gyan meditation. I use it, teach it to individuals to help connect to their true self, recognize, where they need to grow, how they can grow into being a better version of themselves. So, in all aspects of life, how it helps them build better relationships, become better human beings, and then live a life of joy.
Thank you. How did you get into that? Like, what's a little bit of your journey, I guess, into the practice, how you found it, and maybe, yeah, sort of what it brings to your life?
Absolutely. So, I was in my first year of university pursuing computer science and mathematics. This was eons ago when there weren't a lot of women in the field. So, definitely a very high stress field. And like every other individual, trying to cope with the stress, trying to deal with the stress. And in the midst of all this, my teacher found me through my sister who got introduced to the organization, started practicing the meditation, and said how it helped her. So I was curious and I took the initiation, started practicing very little, a few moments here and there. And I noticed that even that little bit of time still made such a profound impact that it helped me cope with stress a lot better. It helped me deal with my anxiety a lot better. And then as, I went through life, you finish university, you start working, first promotion, second promotion, and you would feel like you would feel satisfied at some point, I've attained what I wanted, but yet nothing on the outside was bringing that satisfaction. The only time I felt full and felt like complete was when I spent time in my meditation. So naturally, because it brought me so much joy and contentment, I started spending a lot more time with it. And knowing that, how much it's helped me, the desire to share it with everyone, the recognizing that everybody needs something like this in their life, to cope with just general everyday life. So that's when took my first trip to India, met my guru, Sri Ashutosh Maharaji. And that's when he guided me and said, this is your purpose in this life, is to share this truth, share this gift with everyone you can. And that's when I got initiated into the monk order, is what we would recognize it as, but the Swami or the Swamini order. So that's when I got initiated into that and dedicated my life to just serving mankind and sharing this gift that he's passed on to me to everyone else.
Thank you for that. So you're in university, you get to start getting a taste of this or finding a way through your sort of stresses and anxieties, etc. Just I think it's helpful for people to understand like what it entails to learn these practices and sort of realizing we can't do it alone and the guidance that we get. I know you sort of described that a little bit, but maybe in more detail, were you going to, I'm not sure what you call it, like a sangha or a group or like a temple or whatever? How were you sort of engaging in the practices and what led, you sort of mentioned it, but the decision to go to India and immerse yourself more?
So it was a weekly, we call it a satsang. So just a gathering of where we share truth. So it was a weekly satsang that I would attend just to gain more knowledge about what the technique is, how does it affect me, how would I apply it in my life. The technique itself is very simple, is very subtle, It starts with like the awakening of the third eye. So when receiving Brahmgyan, that third eye is awakened so that you see the light of your soul within. So instead of you closing your eyes and trying to focus or trying to meditate, you're already just seeing this light. So it's so effortless because naturally, when you're seeing this light, which is the light of your soul, so that feeling of bliss, that feeling of just in awe of this light was and every time you sat or every time you meditated, it was different experiences of the same light, you know? So meditation was just naturally an easy process. So that I practiced on a daily basis. And then on a weekly basis, we met together as a community, as a Sangha, just to help each other on the journey, whatever struggles one is having with, different, things that you can do to enhance the practice, to make it deeper, and to answer any questions or doubts that come up along the journey. I know traditionally it's always recommended to get into a meditation practice or a spiritual practice under the guidance of a teacher, under the guidance of a guru, because as much as there's positive energy out there, there's negative energy as well. So you don't know what you're tapping into when you're just, a beginner on this journey. But that guru serves as sort of that protection barrier to make sure that you're only channeling like the positive energy, you're only channeling what's best for you. So I never never grew up with this concept of knowing to have a guru or to be under the guidance of a guru. So I just kind of, fell into it. And then over time, I read, as I had my own experiences, recognizing the importance of having a guru, having a teacher became very, very profound as the journey progressed. And then the desire to want to share this, I think that was what brought me to India, to figure out, hey,
Hmm.
where do I go from here? What do I do with this? Just like, when you get a great deal, you want to share it with everyone. It
Yeah,
was one
for
of
sure.
those
Yeah,
moments,
yeah.
So that's what brought me to visit, and obviously wanting to see my guru in person for the first time, because for the first 4 years of my practice, it was in North America. So I hadn't seen him in person. So that was my first trip to him.
Nice. How long did you go for, and how long? Yeah.
So I ended up staying for 6 weeks. And then over the years, I keep going back, for a few months at a time, just to keep evolving, keep continuing my growth on this journey as well. It's a nice anchor for me to, just reassess, to reanalyze, and then to figure out, okay, what next? How do we deepen this? How do we get deeper? How do we build this connection even more? How do we expand our own consciousness to match the cosmic consciousness, right? So I do go back every now and then, spend a few months there.
Thank you. I have three questions, and I'm just going to jot them down so I don't forget them
Okay.
as they're coming up here. I've already forgotten the third one because I was wanting to listen. I guess we'll just start with love your reference to having a teacher and the importance of all of that. I think uh, with all the, are you familiar with the term McMindfulness?
Mindfulness, I've heard, not
No,
Mick
like, oh
mindfulness.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if it was an academic term or it was a term used to describe the commodification or like the marketization of mindfulness practices in the West and sort of the
Okay.
superficiality associated to all of it.
Mm-hmm.
There's another name for it. I can't remember. A Buddhist guy named it. Anyway, I I guess I'm just kind of curious your thoughts on the commercialization, and not necessarily in a bad way, but people come to meditation or these type of practices through an app or through a YouTube video or through a a sort of modern
Mm-hmm.
yoga studio or whatever it is.
True.
And maybe just some thoughts on kind of the difference between that entry point and a perhaps a little bit more of a formal, I don't know, rooted in an ethical practice or a tradition or a lineage. And maybe you could just share your thoughts on that.
Sure. So, a lot of the stuff that we practice today in the name of meditation or mindfulness, they're all really concentration techniques. So, it's really, to build your focus, to stay present in the moment. These are all techniques to um, build your focus, build your concentration. And it has great importance, absolutely. But meditation is deeper than that. So, where the mind stops is where meditation starts. And it has never been possible for someone to start that practice without a teacher. No matter which master you look at in the past, whether it was Buddha, whether it was Jesus Christ, whether it was Guru Nanak Dev Ji, whether it was Lord Krishna, it doesn't matter which teacher you look at, they all expounded the fact that you need a guru in order to get to this practice of deeper meditation, of connection to the soul. And having said that, it's for individuals who are looking for a deeper connection. If you're looking, just for focus, if you're looking just to be able to concentrate better, if you're looking just to be good at what you do, to be successful at the tasks you have at hand, then yes, absolutely, the mindfulness techniques, the things that are practiced all around the world today with an app, whether YouTube, whether it's a studio, they are great. But if you're looking to take that further, if you're looking for true connection to yourself, if you're looking to walk the path that saints wrote about, these experiences that they wrote about in scriptures, if you're looking for that, if you're looking to liberate the soul, complete the journey of the soul, then you definitely need the guidance of a guru. It is a commitment because it is a relationship between you and the teacher. And like any relationship, there is a commitment aspect to it, not so much expectation, at least from the teacher's side, because the teacher is there just to give and just to help you grow. But there's definitely a commitment to your own journey, commitment to your own growth. So definitely, if you're looking for something deeper, if you're looking for true connection to yourself, really looking to understand who you are, then need a guru, need a teacher to start that journey.
Yeah, thank you. It just feels nice to hear you say those things. Okay, I guess one of the other questions was, are you familiar? I think I may ask you. I don't know if I asked you this when we first connected. The difference between non-dual and dual mindfulness or meditation. Like, are you familiar with that language?
Not dual mindfulness, no.
Okay,
Yeah.
I think so. As I understand it,
Mm.
I think the Vipassana approach to meditation is a bit more conceptualized as dual. So there's there's you, the meditator, or the sort of focus of attention in your mind, and you're shining the light on the object of attention.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then the non-dual is the no self idea of just the idea of a self behind the face, or a consciousness that's labeled with I, me, mine, that type of thing, doesn't actually exist. And so
Yes.
guiding people to that first is a much more direct path. I think that's another way to think about it, is the non-dual is perhaps a bit more of a direct path. And I think I was came through the very formal Western, the word like protocol practices. So I did MBSR, mindfulness based stress reduction. And I
Mm-hmm.
had a teacher, and luckily she was a medical doctor, so she could provide these things through OHIP. So she provided a bunch of different courses, and I took all of the different ones. But I think that was a bit void of the perhaps spiritual, deeper connection to self type of stuff. It was more sort of skill building and incorporating some of these ideas in a bit more of a practical way.
Hmm.
And I'm sort of getting to many different thoughts here. I'm almost done. So for me, it was wonderful to have her in my life. I guess studied with her for about 10 years, but it was very much, I think, a bit more in that Vipassana idea of like, use your attention behind the face, direct it here and there. And then I was introduced to the non-dual, no self stuff, which I think is, oh, I can't believe the name's escaping me, but like a Dzogchen. Are you familiar with Dzogchen Buddhism? It's like a form of Buddhism. I
Hmm.
think I'm saying it right. Anyway, so then I was introduced to the idea of non-self, and that made so much more sense, or it was a bit more liberating for me, I guess I could say.
Hmm.
Anyway, that's a lot. I'll stop with that. Do you have any thoughts on any of that, or can you help?
Yeah, definitely. So I can help bridge the two together. So the third eye is the door to the true self. So when you receive Brahmgyan, the technique, you are connecting to this thing that is beyond everything. That Shakti, that power that brings this entire universe into creation. So that cannot be identified, cannot be put into a box, that's that supreme self, supreme consciousness, which our soul is a part of that. And when you receive Brahmgyan, you get a glimpse of what this power is. And then the journey is you going from you being you as the individual self to this self with the big S, like what you are actually a part and parcel of. And seeing the goal is easier because when the path is lit, then you know which path you have to walk, you know. So starting with being able to see the destination and then doing your practice, walking that journey to get there. That's what the journey of Brahmgyan is. So it brings the two together to say, you recognize, hey, I'm this individual self. This is where I'm starting, but this is where I'm getting to. And that's the journey that the soul is on. It's looking to break these barriers, this box we've put ourselves in, and then become that true absolute self that it really is.
Nice, thanks. That's nice. That's a nice bridge. And maybe, hold on, let me make sure yeah, those are my two questions. I can't remember the third one. It'll come back. Um, how do you think about the idea of the sort of morality or the ethics or the virtues of kind of these type of practices? And I think in modern mindfulness, or I don't know, Western sort of secular mindfulness, if you will, it's so void of the ethics and the principles and kind of what it is we're trying to align our behavior with, other than just sort of peace and contentment or whatever, relaxation. For me, I learned my understanding of all that stuff through Alcoholics Anonymous. It is very sort of virtue based, principle based, ethically based. And so we learn to live in alignment with these values, I guess you could say, or principles of ethical action, which are very much aligned with, probably mess it up a little bit, but the sort of Buddhist teachings of, the Eightfold Path, or right mindfulness, right action, right speech, all that kind of stuff. So maybe, yeah, can you just talk a little bit about that, and maybe how you see maybe that is missing perhaps from our more secularized practices, and then how maybe the bridges happen for people or whatnot.
Yeah, definitely agree. It is missing in our society. I grew up in Dubai, and we learned it in school. Like we had a subject that was called moral studies, where
Wow.
we learned,
Wow.
yeah,
Was it an
the
international
honest.
school?
Yes,
It
yes.
was?
It
Wow.
was the board was Indian board, but in Dubai. So one subject was just moral studies. So, how do you be honest? How do you be compassionate? How do you not, try and cheat someone? Like, these things were actually taught to us, and they were taught through storytelling, which was amazing because those stories still stick with you. You still remember those. I do find, in the society here, that is definitely not something, that we teach our children, like at least in more mainstream
Yeah.
education. And so, the onus relies on parents at home, relies on, families, just to help instill these values. And I find with the younger generation, a lot of it comes from, a lot of their learning comes from seeing how the people around them act, react, what they do in situations. So using that avenue to help teach them. And then I think deeper than that, within each and every one of us lies a moral compass, But how do we tap into it? Because we live in an environment where everything is so fast. Everything is like everybody's on this race. Where are they going? No one knows. Um, but to be able to just sit with yourself, if someone can start building that habit from a young age, void of any techniques, practices, anything, but just sitting in silence for a few moments, and just when the dust settles, automatically that those thoughts from within will come, that, hey, you did this today, that wasn't very nice, or you could have done this way. Like, those thoughts will naturally start to come from within. So I think really, training individuals to be okay with silence, to be okay with sitting with themselves for a few moments. You don't always have to be doing something to prove that you're successful or you're making use of your time, but to bring more importance and more awareness to that. I think that will help individuals naturally tap into their natural moral compass that sits within. And if that insight can be the guide, then that's the most amazing way, right? Because something that's good for me might not be good for you. And we can teach it in a classroom, but it's usually very black and white. This is the right thing to do, this is the wrong thing to do. But when it comes to the journey of life, that's not always the case. So to be able to tap into your guide that sits within you, that guides you on what's good for you on your journey of life, that would ensure that you're following, the path set out for you, and you're doing what's right naturally. So.
Yeah. Do you, and I assume that's where you see or practice even the guidance of a teacher, right? Or I agree completely. We all have the experience of hearing that voice, right? Or the reminder that, ooh, I don't think I behaved very well today. Or when you see other people behave contrary to these things, it's so
Yeah.
easy to be like, hey, that's not okay. Don't do that to me, right? Or don't do that to
Yeah.
that other person. But being able
Yeah.
to notice it in ourselves and then respond to it perhaps effectively takes
Hmm.
practice and guidance and encouragement and all that kind of thing. And I think to your point, it's not, I guess the removal of religion from modern society is one reason we're not engaged in those conversations more, I guess. And for all the pros and cons of religion, whatever, it's just sort of where we are.
Hmm.
So is there particular sort of methodologies or texts or ways of addressing moral ethical dilemmas in the practice? And I want to say it, but I it's Brahm Gyan, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, is
Brahmgyan.
there like, yeah, a particular sort of code of ethics or whatever?
So Brahmgyan is beyond religion, but encompassing it all. And regardless of whatever religion you practice. So if you're a practicing Christian, it
Hmm.
will deepen your practice. If you're a practicing Hindu, it will deepen your practice. If you're not practicing any religion, it would still deepen your practice, because it's this connection to yourself. The titles, the segregations we have in society today is all on the outside, but that connection to the self and at the soul level, we're all connected. And we say that, but to be able to actually realize it, to know it, not just lip service, but to really know it. When you have this intense feeling of being connected to the people around you, of being connected to a tree as you're walking by, having that intense experience, makes that you're connected at a much deeper level. um, so Brahmgyan strengthens this voice that's within you, because Brahmgyan is you building this connection, building this
Got it.
relationship to your true self. So as you build a relationship, just like any relationship on the outside, when you start hanging out with a friend too much, then their thoughts start to have an impression on you. The way they think, the way they talk, the way they act, you start picking up those things. So the same is with this relationship with your true self. The more you start to practice, the more you build this connection, then those qualities, because religion was supposed to be a way of life, not just something you practice on one day of the week for a few hours, but it was not meant to segregate. It was meant to unite and meant for us to know that this is a way of life. And that's what Brahmgyan reiterates, that fact that this is a way of life. As you continue to practice, as you continue to spend time with your true self, the qualities of your true self will naturally come out. So you don't have to tell yourself to be honest, and you don't have to tell yourself not to hurt this person, but it becomes your nature, because that's your nature, right? So you act from that space of true self. And when you act from that space of the true self, then you're doing what your true nature is.
Okay. Thank you.
So it removes that mind sort of out of
Yeah.
it, not
Yeah. Yeah.
mentally thinking black or white, right or wrong, but it's beyond the duality, and just knowing
Hmm.
in this moment, this is what I need to do. Just having absolute clarity about knowing what to do in each moment.
Yeah. Yeah. In some sense, it's even beyond knowing or before knowing. It sort of just happens, right? And yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Many thoughts. Try many questions. I guess the one that keeps coming up is I'm curious sort of what your thoughts are on. I hear the conversation sort of around the guru disciple relationship, or in many traditions, oftentimes a guru will be an excellent teacher and super wise, etc. And then behind the scenes, they perhaps aren't so ethical and they do things that sort of don't align with the teachings, if you will. I'm just kind of curious. I mean, that I guess that's how humans are or whatever, but do you have any sort of experience, maybe not personally, or if you do personally, but just seeing things like that happen and kind of just your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. There are so many stories, so many stories. Um, I've been blessed that, I didn't go looking for a guru. I didn't go looking for a teacher. I didn't understand, sort of what is the checklist, that your guru is supposed to like follow. But it's something that it just fell in my path. But after starting this journey, there's a lot of there's people who've come to the organization who've been to other gurus before, and unfortunately gone through experiences which gurus have not acted so ethically. And this is where scripture really really brings it down. So knowing what you're looking for in a guru. So today we use the word guru very lightly. Everybody's
Sure.
called a guru. You can have a marketing guru, you can have a
Okay.
beauty guru, you
Right,
can
right,
have
right,
any
right.
kind of guru, you
Right.
know. But in olden times they used the word sat guru, sat meaning truth, gu means darkness, and ru means light. So someone who brings you from darkness to light, that awakens that truth within you. Gurus are not individuals who, give you anything. Usually it's like, guru gave me a mantra, or guru gave me this or that. But it's really a Satguru is considered an individual who can awaken your divine eye and connect you to the truth within, so that this truth within becomes your guide. you know it's not you having to run to a physical person every time trying to figure out an answer or figure out a solution. But guru is the bridge between, like how we were talking about that dual non-dual. It's you is the bridge between your individual self to this true self. It's just a bridge. And guru's path, or who's considered as a guru, is one who can show you the truth, not just talk about it, not just say this is what you're supposed to do, this is what you're not supposed to do. Today there's you can learn that. You can hear about that. There's beautiful people who very eloquently tell you, how to live as a righteous being. But who can awaken this truth for you? Who can provide you the practical experience of truth, not just on theory, but practical experience? And if you look towards history, some of these gurus were not well spoken. They weren't very eloquent teachers, but they were able to provide the practical experience and to make you independent. Like, you can feed someone for a day, but if you just teach them how to earn their own living, you make them independent. So with Brahmgyan, you become independent, so that, gurus awaken this truth to you. But now as you build this practice, your inside, that guru that sits within you becomes your guide. The truth is that people are seeking today. People are looking for a deeper meaning to life. People are looking for a bigger purpose in life. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people who are taking advantage of this as well. It's become a business. It's become, a quick money kind of situation, which right away off the bat, for an individual, that should trigger you and say, this is not truth. If they're concerned with materialistic things, then how are they going to free you from the bondage of that? So it's really knowing what you're seeking, and knowing that the I'm not saying, they might be the perfect individual, but at least when it comes to your journey, your growth, what they are providing you is a true practical experience.
Yeah. It is very much analogous to the AA model of you need a sponsor, and then once you learn or once you show that you understand things, I guess
Hmm.
it's definitely very informal and formal at the same time. Then it's your responsibility to share it with others, kind of idea. And I mean, my sponsor saved my life. Like, the guy, I love the man. He's such a wonderful human being.
Hmm.
Slowly and surely showed me how to live my life in a way that was going to be helpful for me. The AA stuff, it doesn't exactly correlate. I mean, they do encourage, or it is encouraged, to find meditation and to pray and these kind of things, but it's very, I think, similar to what you're saying. It's not its own religion or whatever. It's a
Hmm.
practice. It's a way of being. And whatever religion or way of being or practices that you already have, you learn to integrate them into the steps. And yeah, I I don't know if you're very familiar with AA or the 12 steps and that kind of stuff, but it is such a wonderful spiritual practice.
It
Like it's a
is. It
spiritual
is.
program. Yeah. Have you heard
Absolutely.
much
Yes.
about it or?
I have actually. I have a couple of individuals who've come along my path as well. Who've come to Brahmgyan, and they've come from AA groups, and in that quest of finding more meaning or finding a purpose in life, it brought them to the ashram, brought them to satsang, and Brahmgyan has only helped enhance that. Um, and it's also helped strengthen their willpower, so it's helped people overcome addictions, whether it was alcohol, whether it was medical drugs, whether it was but building that strength, that willpower within to be able to say no. I don't want to do this anymore. So there's been numerous success stories, numerous examples of people who are part of the sangha here, that have experienced that. So yes, and definitely, I think it's definitely stemmed or written out by someone who had a spiritual practice, like just the things like. When I read the 12 steps, it's no different than what we practice in Brahmgyan. The only thing is finding that person who can awaken that truth within
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
which we say in terms of a sponsor now, that a guru would be the one who would awaken that truth, so deepening that practice.
Yeah. And are you, I can't remember if I think I asked you this when we first spoke, but are you familiar? He's huge on YouTube, Sadhguru or Sadhguru. I don't know how to say it exactly. Are you familiar with that guy?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Is he, I don't know what his sort of lineage is or background, but do you know much about him? To me, he seems quite wise and insightful and whatever. I don't know what your thoughts are on about him.
I've heard a couple of talks, a little bit familiar with the teachings. So again, a lot of it is around mindfulness techniques, that they're teaching through breathing practices, or through yoga asanas and stuff, to bring the mind and body to a place where it's still and stable. But the ancient practice of connection to the soul, that I haven't found in his teachings yet.
Got it. Got it. And I guess why is he? What's the connection between the name, like Sadhguru? Because that's what you're describing, right? Is it just kind of like a common name for people like that, or?
So same thing, like how
Yeah.
guru is used loosely,
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
it's just it's a
Okay.
common name. So in olden
Right. Right.
times, they would call them Satgurus, the ones
Got it.
who provided the awakening to the soul. There were other teachers, other gurus, like people who were well versed in scriptures, or people who were well versed in particular aspects of society. But the ones who provided the awakening or the connection to the soul were called Satgurus.
Got it. Got it. Okay. And I guess how, well, I am kind of curious. I think that was one of my other questions earlier, just came back to me. You finish university, you get into the corporate world or whatever, you're doing your thing. What was the work that you were doing? And you kind of mentioned it. Was there a particular moment or thing that where you just decided, all right, now's the time. Like now I'm out of here kind of thing, or I'm going to make this change?
So I was doing financial analysis and business analysis at RBC.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I think the point was just when I went to India, I came back with a purpose, with my own purpose in life. And that moment, like when my guru said, this is why you've come on earth, this is why your soul has taken this body, this is your purpose. That was it. That moment was like, okay, this is a gift he's passed on to me, so it's my duty, my service to mankind, to pass it on to everyone. So that's when I came back, I traveled, to America, to England, and Canada as well. So been wherever I go, trying to help people connect with this truth, find that peace that they're looking for. So
Wow. So is it in some sense, yeah, it wasn't really a decision. Like it just sort of was, like it
just the
happened.
path that was laid out, yeah, and
Yeah,
it just
yeah.
felt right to walk it,
Right, right, right.
and never looked back.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's hard to describe
Yeah.
that to people, how that
It wasn't
happens.
it
Yeah.
wasn't well received, at least by my by my peers and friends, and
Yeah.
understandably slow.
Sure,
So,
sure.
you grew up with these people where you're like, okay, if we moved to Canada, we're looking for a better life. You got all of that, and then you're saying, I don't want it, you know.
Yeah.
So it was hard. It was hard for a lot of the people around me to understand, what are you doing? Have you gone mad? Are you crazy? But inside it felt right,
Yeah.
so I took the leap and continued.
Yeah. And would you say, sort of put on the therapist hat for a second, when people are looking for more clarity or how to make a decision or figure out what to do with themselves, maybe how you think about the tension between, there are practical things that we can do, write out your goals or write out your values, write out what you're looking for. Like, so there's ways of kind of trying to clarify it intellectually. And then the
Mhm.
other side of it is that just sitting and in the not knowing and sitting in the sort of waiting and allowing it to emerge. And of course, in a therapy context, you only have an hour generally with somebody, and it's maybe once a week or every few weeks, and it's maybe,
Mhm.
for a couple months. I guess it's something that often comes up for me, and I'm just kind of curious how you think about helping people understand the sitting and waiting or being open and listening with the maybe practical nature of trying to figure things out.
So I think for each individual is different. So when a person comes to me, some people are like, they cannot focus, they can't concentrate. So then I will start with them with physical things, some movement with connection to breath. For some individuals, they're okay, they can sit, they can focus, but there's a lot happening in their life, there's a lot. So really understanding what the mind body connection is of the individual in front of me, and then based on that, that's where I start them. When I first started, sharing Brahmgyan, I recognized that the people here they cannot sit and they cannot close their eyes. Like, it's not like, it's a foreign concept. So then I started with yoga, and started with, okay, let's do some yoga, and then get into some mindfulness, some breathing, and then recognize, even yoga is not, a lot of people have never sat on the floor, they've never stretched or moved, and that's when I went back for my Ayurveda learning. So whether it was practices, whether it was diet changes they needed, whether it was certain herbs if they needed. So just depending on what the individual in front of me needs, and then starting them off there. So meeting them where they're at, and then evolving them to getting to being comfortable with sitting and closing their eyes. And then the other thing is not just sitting there in darkness, like closing your eyes and sitting there in the dark is not really going to give you any solutions. So the technique of Brahmgyan awakens that light within them. So as they're sitting, it's not that they're doing nothing, but they're connecting to this light within, and that automatically becomes easier for people, because it's like you staring at a blank TV versus you watching a movie. staring at a blank TV after 30 seconds, you're going to be like, what? What do you want me to do? But if you're watching a movie, you can sit there for an hour, 2 hours, and if the movie's enjoyable. So it's sort of the same thing. You close your eyes and sit there, and it's this blank TV screen. And what do you want me to do? You want me to pay attention to my thoughts, which I'm already scared of, you know? So I don't want to do that, because I'm already scared of what I'm going to find within. But if I'm sitting in light, as I close my eyes, I'm seeing this light within, and I'm focused on the light rather than focus on what chitter chatter is going on within my mind, and we train people. So when the mind wanders, you bring it back to focus on the light. When the mind wanders, you bring it back to focus on the light. So as this light is lit, then your path will start to become clear, so it just depends on the individual. So really understanding what their mind body connection is what helps me know where do I start them, and help them along that journey. So
Yeah. Yeah. I was just having the thought, how could we do a little practice now? Or how much time do you need to do a practice?
practice, I mean, not really a lot of time. It
Yeah.
just
Okay.
depends. So but on like in a public setting or anything, what I usually do, mindfulness practices, or what we call mindfulness today, in order to connect with your light. Then you would have to be initiated into Brahmgyan, so that
Got it.
your eyes awaken, your eye is blessed, and then you see the light. You have your own experience. So you see your own light within. You're not listening to what I'm saying, but you're
Right. Right.
seeing
Right.
your own light within. You're listening to music already that's playing within yourself, so that this is your personal, your own experience, But
Yeah.
on the outside, like when we have satsangs and stuff, I do a little bit of yoga. We do a little bit of breathing techniques. We have a satsang, so that will talk about how Brahm Gyan can connect you to building better relationships, being a better person, being better human beings. How do I use this to deal with anger? How do I use this to deal with my ego? More practical stories, techniques, examples. And then we do a mindfulness practice at the end, just a guided meditation, because not everybody is initiated in Brahmgyan when you're in a satsang, in a sangha. And then once you have a Brahmgyan, then we have advanced meditation classes, because Brahmgyan is like a secret technique passed on from gurus to disciples. So only if you've received it through a teacher, you can practice it. So
Got it.
yeah,
Yeah. And I was about to ask you something. It's gone.
it'll come back if it's meant
Yeah, well,
to.
maybe I think it's also probably helpful for people to hear. You mentioned a little bit, maybe you can tell us a bit more about the decision to sort of, change your life in terms of sort of going from the corporate work and just the kind of status quo, if you will, to
Mhm.
this life. Were there any moments? I don't really know what the question is, but I think people often get stuck or caught making certain leaps of faith, if you will, or allowing themselves to receive the gift, right? Or receive the
Mhm.
insight that they want to take action on.
Yes.
Yeah, and maybe just kind of how you've navigated the ups and downs of that or whatever.
There's definitely been a few moments, initially started with my own stress, my own anxiety, going through university, having a couple part-time jobs, trying to make it work. And then finding fullness in the time that I practice. Like I would wait eagerly every single day that, when am I going to be done work to go home so that I can sit and practice, so that this feeling of fullness, this void in the heart was being filled with that. And then along the journey, meeting individuals who are struggling, especially mentally, and being able to make little differences in their life that helped. I did a few years ago lose someone to suicide who was like a younger brother to me. And I think that at that moment, it really hit me hard that why this work is so important, why I need to do more, I need to expand this work, reach out to more people than just the few people who walk in through your door. I absolutely dislike the camera, dislike the screen,
Yeah.
but it made the shift, to say, okay, that's how you're going to reach, use technology to put good things out there. And then over COVID, just a lot of conversations with a lot of individuals who were struggling tremendously. So that's when I took to making a lot of videos, a lot of the talks online, started making online courses that people can do at their own time, free of cost. It's accessible whenever you want it, making more and more avenues for individuals to be able to tap into something that will help. And I do have a youth group as well, so recognizing the struggles of the younger generation, and it almost scares me, like the lack of mental resilience, in the new generation almost scares me as to how are they going to survive in society. And there's always these wake up calls of like, yeah, that's why, more needs to be done in this field, or that's why, you know try, and what else can you do, how can you tap into this generation, how can you tap into this avenue to help them. If my purpose is to help, then that's what I want to do. So over the years, there's been quite a few of like reminders and wake up calls that gives me that reassurance that this is definitely needed, this is the age that it's really, really needed in.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I got two more questions and maybe three. One, could you, and maybe I'll lay out two and then you decide which one to do first. One, I guess I'm just kind of curious if you could talk about the idea of the ego and kind of what that looks like to you and how you practice or help people understand that. And then the other is identity and sort of how, as I understand a lot of these practices, that big self, that interconnectedness, all that stuff is void of identity, right? And sort of these labels that we often, particularly in modern times, which I think is also contributing to so much of the suffering for young people, is they're so attached to these identities.
Hmm.
But yeah, maybe ego, identity, how you think about, well, yeah, I don't know if you have
I
thoughts on
think they're
either. Yeah.
very connected. I mean, the questions
Yeah.
are very
Yeah.
connected, and obviously, this is a journey I'm still navigating, I'm still growing
Right.
on.
Right.
And I think this is sort of this, there are moments where you act as the I self, and then there's moments where you tap into that eternal
Right.
self
Right.
and
Yeah.
act out of that place. And I think there's this constant back and forth throughout this journey. And I think the moments acting from a place of true self, those moments start to increase little by little. Throughout the day, there's more moments, more opportunities where I'm acting out of the true self rather than the I. And then when you're sitting in practice, recognizing when am I acting out of this I, and then coming to the understanding that there is no difference between the two, there is no separation. We often separate that this is me and this is the true self, and but coming to realize that they're one and the same. And I think it's a work in progress. It's a journey for sure. But I think over time those moments have started to increase, of recognizing that there is no difference between the two. And when you're acting from your place of true self, then there is no identity. With the society today, there's so much emphasis on not just identity as a person, but like identity as what you look like, what are you wearing, what are you eating. There's so many different definitions of this
Yes, yes,
identity.
yes.
And I think that's part of the chaos today, um, for individuals to be like, well, are you this, are you that, are you this or that? Like the options have just like become manifold now. And I think that's really just creating more disconnection to the self, rather than actually bringing them home. It's taking individuals further away and creating more chaos, in our society today. And that disconnection to self, that's the root of where mental problems start, where discomfort starts, where, and that, ripples through from the mental plane to the physical plane to your surroundings around you. Like it's just this ripple effect. So if we can get it there, help individuals from a young age just being able to connect to themselves, I think over time that will ripple and help people become more like sound individuals, more grounded individuals, people who have clarity in their lives, and not just today I'm this and tomorrow I'm this, and with every new fad that comes they're running in that direction and not really getting anywhere, right? So
Yeah. Thank you. That was lovely. As I am also, as we all are, I guess, on that journey. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay. Maybe the last question is anything sort of that we haven't discussed that you find yourself thinking about a lot or addressing or kind of finding yourself in conversations about, yeah, or any other sort of big topics in the world or in your life or lives of others that you think are important and want to share.
definitely. I think like all the unrest that we have all over the world today, so much is happening, and it can take a toll on you, but um really helping people remember that it starts with you. You know, we can go out and do things to try and save the world, but it starts with you. So if you can bring yourself to a state of peace, to a state of harmony and love
Mm,
within yourself, then that will start to ripple with the people you live with, the people around you, people you interact with, often. And then slowly that to community. Like world peace is going to also start with you. When your world is at peace, there will be world peace. So I know there's a lot of unrest, and definitely not to make it a small in any way. It definitely has makes a huge impact, a huge difference. But if we can start with home, start right here with yourself and start on that journey. And I think eventually we will get to a point where we can start making a difference in the world as well. Because especially if we're connected on a soul level, I think the more we start to expand our consciousness and raise our consciousness, I think we'll be able to do that. If we do that, if the people around us start doing that, if our community starts doing that, as the consciousness expands and raises, that will start making a difference in the universe as well, from a deeper level rather than from outside in, from inside out.
thank you for reminding me of that. Yeah. Or just reassuring me. I struggle with that sometimes. I know that to be true. And then, of course, the mind wanders off into wishing it was some other way because
Hmm.
it seems like it would be easier sometimes if there was another way. But yeah, thank you for that. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for all of this. I
Thank
guess
you.
it'll be in the show notes and all that stuff, but do you want to kind of direct anybody to any of your work or website or any, how people can get a hold of you or find you? Um,
Yeah. Absolutely. Divinelightworld.org is the website. There's lots of free courses on there. If you've never meditated before, if you have, doesn't matter what level you're at, you can start with that. It starts with just trying to befriend your breath. So starting from that, leading up to dealing with emotions through your chakras, and then mindfulness, and then hopefully getting you to receiving Brahmgyan yourself and connecting to your true self. So, they can visit the website. We do have weekly satsangs in Mississauga. That information's on the website as well. So everybody's welcome to attend. My phone number's on there. If someone just needs to have a conversation or doesn't know where to start, we can do that as well.
Thank you.
Yep.
Are we back?
Yes.
Yeah, it froze right when you said they can do that as well. So I think it got everything.
Perfect.
Oh man, I just had a bit of I was like, no. Okay, yeah. Well, thank you again so much. And yeah, I wish you all the best. Till next time.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. Thank you for having me.
I'll stop this. I am very grateful that you watched to the end of this video. Please click one of the boxes to watch more of our content. And otherwise, have a great day. Peace out.